Beginning our Daf Mesechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Lamed Gimel. Begin 6 lines down at the top of the Yomid. We will continue explaining the halacha of our Mishnah, discussing the laws of Tekiyah Shofar as it applies in general to Shabbos. Today's Daf. Some of the things we discussed in today's Daf are the Isser. We discussed this on the previous Daf. This is performing any malacha Rosh Hashanah in preparation of the Shofar, cutting it, and getting it and accessing it. We continue on those themes. Then on the days we discussed regarding blowing the shofar Rosh Hashanah, how many are required, how long each one must be, and the 3 sounds of Tekiyah Shvam True. This is the Lamaisa, the things we have every year on Rosh Hashanah. So the key terms of concept we can have today's daf are Shvus, which the Isser of doing Malacha on a Yom Tov, on the Shabbos. Tchum is the halacha that we mentioned this in the previous daf regarding going out of 2,000 Amas. Mitzvah Sishas Manguramam is the halacha that when there's a time-bound commandment, whether it be a certain day or a certain time in the day, that women are generally exempt. Smicha is halacha by the carbon that you have to lean on it before you go ahead and you shech the animal, which was said for Bnei Yisrael, but not for Bnei Yisrael. Kachik Gilachinach is the halacha, which Rashi says around age 9, 10, when the child reaches that age, then there's halacha to go ahead and inaugurate them into the mitzvahs. Tekiyah Shvam Trua are the different shofar blasts that we do. Tekiyah is the straight blast. Shvarim and Trua is a machlekes in the Gemara. What is considered the Trua? Is it longer blast or shorter blast? And that's what halacha l'maisa we do today, because of that suffix, as we'll see today and tomorrow's daf, regarding that we do both them, Shvarim and Trua. So we mentioned in the previous daf that it's forbidden to perform any malacha, even Issa D'Rabbanan and Yom Tov, in order to perform the mitzvah of shofar. We had mentioned that why can't you do it? All these things of, let's say, removing a pile of stones, or climbing on a tree, riding an animal, traveling on water. We said you can't do it because even though it's a mitzvah say for the mitzvah of shofar, but Yom Tov doing malacha is a say and a lois say. And although we said in the Mishnah that you can't even do isur d'Rabbanan, that's not a say b'lois say. So that's what we say called the token Rabban Kinder Raisa yesh koich be'atcham lakam davim and atar b'shebal tasa, that you can't even do a malacha d'Rabbanan to go ahead and perform the mitzvah the Raisa of shofar. And that's where we continue 6 lines down at the top of the Yomid, where we quote from the Mishnah. It says, okay, we can't do all these things, cutting it and going out of the tchum, but if you want to put it into the shape of water or wine, so you could put it in, because if you want to just make it that it clears it out. So the Gemara makes a diuk and says, oh, it sounds like mayim or yain in. Water or wine you could stick into the shape, but meirik laim loy. But if it was urine, that even though that could have a very cleaning agent, that you can't put into the shafer. Says so who's the time about Mishnah? So Abasholi, the time like within the Bryce, Abasholi says, "My yain mutter." You let it go ahead and wash out the shofar with water or wine, and that's kedila tzachtzachlik, to go ahead and clean it out. Made it lime also, but urine is also there covered because of the honor, because it's not dignified to go ahead and pour urine into the shofar. Then we said in the Mishnah, you don't hold back the child from blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, because you have to go ahead and be machanech them. Now, the Gemara makes a dig. Hanashim akvan. But women, then you're going to go ahead and hold them back. Why? So Rashi says, because they're totally exempt. Because the mitzvah sesesha is manguram, it's a time-bound commandment. And when they're going to blow, there's going to be a problem about taisif, because they're adding on to something that they're not mechlivin. Taisif says a little differently. Taisif says that blowing a shofar on Yom Tov is an issa d'Rabbanan, and it's only permitted for performing the mitzvah of Tekiyah Shofar or chinuch. So for a woman, we would stop her from blowing the shofar, because how could you be able to Izid Rabbanan of blowing a shofar? But be that as it may, the Gemara says, but there seems to be a contradiction. We learned in the Bryce that says, Imak, when you don't hold back, Loyas Anasham, Loyas Tinaik is much Yamtim. You don't hold back not only the children, like we said in the Mishnah, but you don't hold back women either. So do you let women blow the shofar, or do you not let them? So Mabaya, he says, like Kash, it's not difficult. Almost by the Kaisel, the side of it. This that you say that you ma'akim them is Rabbi Yehuda, that you hold them back as Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Shimon, and this is Rabbi Yisrael, Shimon, that says that you're not ma'akim. Because at the time of the Bryce, there is a similar machlekes that we have in another context. The time that the Bryce says, we're going to pasuk in the Yikr. It says, Dabe el b'nei Yisrael. Speak to the Jewish people, and the pasuk there says, V'martalim, you should tell them, Odem ki'akim mekem, you're going to bring a carbon. Now, in that context, the bring a carbon says, V'samach yodai, to do the mitzvah of smicha. Now, so since it starts with Bnei Yisrael, that teaches Bnei Yisrael Samchas. The men, they do smicha. The Bnei Yisrael Samchas. But the women, they don't lean on the animal. That's the Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Shimon, they say, Nashim Samchas Rishos. No, women, if they want to, they have the option of doing smicha. So we see, as Rashi explained, even though the pasuk exempts them, but there's no isser. And the same is going to be for mitzvah sesesha mangarama, that there's no isser. It's not like a problem about taisim. That's the machlekes that we have. Are we ma'akiv the nashim with kaya or not? It's not a stira. It's a machlekes, as we find by smicha. It's something the woman's exempt from. Do we say you cannot do it? It's bal taisiv. Or let's say the way Taisa said that you have the Issa D'Rabbanan, or do we say no, you have an option, and Taisa has a whole arichas that the Rabbeinu Tam brings, that even though we have a Stamas Nitin like Rabbi Yehuda, that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, and Taisa has a huge discussion. We find Michal Bashal would put on tefillin, the wife of Yoina was Oil Regel, and that women are allowed to make a bracha, mitzvah seishes mangarama, even though they're peturas from a dvar mitzvah, and that's the Bnei Ashkenaz like Taisa that Taisa says that she could go ahead and make brachas, and he brings a raya from many different places, and he has a big discussion about this topic. But that if someone's not mechuyevin, even so that the woman could go ahead and be mekayim the mitzvah to say shezman gurav. Now the Mishnah said that you don't stop the child from blowing the shofar. And the words of the next words in the Mishnah are rather you're engaged with them until they learn how to go ahead and blow the shofar. So says the Gemara, Amar Rebbe Lazar, it says Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you let the child, where even though we don't do lamaisa because we consider sheni yavireno, but we let the child to blow even on Shabbos. Similar in the Bryce, you're engaged with the child to blow the shofar until they learn how to do it. Even on Shabbos. Now, the Ima Akhan Natinigis Mot Koi b'Shabbos. Don't hold back the child from blowing on Shabbos. So this is the same question you have in the Mishnah, same you have in the Bryce. Haguba Kasha. It seems to be an internal contradiction. Because on the one hand, Amrit, you say, Misaskim hem, you engage with them Achi Lamdu until they learn how to blow, b'Shabbos, even on Shabbos. So I'm looking at Chilam in the Taka. It's obviously that even initially we say blow. Not from get upland and how to go ahead and blow the shofar. So it sounds like you have an obligation to teach him. It's like that's a l'katchila. But other time, then the next words of the brayso are ima akfen. We don't stop the child. In the Mishnah is the inverse, but the both terminologies are in the Mishnah too. That you don't hold them back. It sounds like you don't stop them. Like and read the talk, but we don't tell them to blow it. So what is this? Is do we want the child to be blowing the shofar on Yom Tov and even on Shabbos so that he learns how to blow? Or do we not stop him, but we don't tell him to do it? So it's more like not difficulty. Why? Because Khan, over here, in the Reisha, as we continue to the base, is Bekan Shagil Chinuch. We're talking about a child that already reached the Chinuch age. So such a child, we engage in him to learn how to do it, and for sure we don't stop him. Khan, when we said it's B'diavad, that we just don't stop him, is Bekan Shagil Chinuch, is a child that didn't yet reach the age of Chinuch. And therefore, there's no lehislam, there's no teaching him because he's not chinuch age yet, and therefore you don't have an obligation like a tchila to teach him. So that resolves the contradiction. A little child, he's not learning anything. So I have no halacha achi lamdu. He's not learning. He's a little child. So I don't have to stop him. But the older kid, not only do I not stop him, taka spiel. I want to learn how to go ahead and learn how to blow the shofar. That's a rash. It's difficult. It says the flips around the gears and says it's the other way around. We have the older child. No, it's Isser. We don't blow the shofar on Shabbos. Was nice. You have to stop him. And the kleiner kid, spiel. But that's the gears that we have. That the Rashi explains that the Kachar Gilach Chinuch is the one that you actually encourage him so that he learns how to play. Then we said in the Mishnah Vamis Asik Lo Yatsa. We said that if someone is totally distracted when he's blowing, then he's not going to fulfill. Like Rashi explains that he's not even having in mind for a tkiyah. Forget about the mitzvah. It's like, let's say, guys performing, like we said, a symphony, and he has a note. So there's a tkiyah note. That's not misasik. But in saying there's a mitzvah, the guy obviously just blowing enough for the mitzvah. But you have a guy who's just touching him, he's not even trying to even blow a tkiyah, and he just happens to make a tkiyah. That's called misasik. You're totally distracted as you're blowing it. So then said the Mishnah not going to be yaitzik. Now, the diuk the Gemara makes is, well, it sounds like what the keilah shir, but if let's say someone's blowing it for a musical note, where he is having in mind for a tkiyah, just not for the mitzvah, it sounds like yatzeh would be yaitzik. So as the Gemara, let me say a little bit, which we quoted this in the previous stuff. Let's say this supports Rabbah, because Amar Rabbi says that the keilah shir yatzeh, says if someone's blowing for a musical note, but he's blowing a tkiyah, he's going to be yatzeh. it doesn't have to have in mind for the mitzvah. So says the Gemara, no, it's not necessarily a raya, because Dimat Tekei L'Shir, maybe blowing for a musical note, Nami Mes'asik Karele. Maybe in regards to the mitzvah performance, the Tanva Mishnah is calling that a Mes'asik. You're not intending to, das heißt nicht a Tkiya, das heißt a Spieling. So that's why it's not a raya to Rava. It could be the Mishnah would hold that Tekei L'Shir would not be Yaitse. And that's called Mes'asik because you're just playing music. That's not blowing the tkiya, even though you're making a tkiya, that maybe that would be considered mesasik, maybe it's not a raya. Now, saying the Mishnah, not only if you're mesasik, you're not going to be yetzer, but v'ashemei min ha-mesasik lo yatsa. Someone hears from someone else, who the guy happens to be passing by, Lincoln Center, and the guy, he has a shofar blast, and he's like, oh, I can be yetzer, or whatever, this and that, but that guy's not having intent to do that. No, not going to be yetzer. Now, the Gemara makes a dig here too. It sounds like I'm the Shemiyah and the Shemiyah Atzmoi. What halacha be? But let's say a guy's walking by, a guy's doing for his wife at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This guy just woke up, or who knows whatever. Happy he was on a tzala call, and he's walking by, and the guy's blowing for his wife, and he's like, "Whoa, I hear it!" And the guy's not doing it for anyone else. Let's say he's doing it for himself. My what halacha be? It sounds like he's yaitze. Says, "Give me let me tell you to the Ramzer." Let's say that refers to Ramzer, because normally Ramzer l'shamei. Ramzer said to his attendant, and we quoted this in the previous Daf too, on Daf Chav Chesam Avev, that he said, do me a favor, have a mind and blow it for me. For me, what do you have to do for me? As long as you're blowing, as long as I'm hearing you're doing it for you, that should be good enough. Why have me in mind? Says the Gemara, no, it's not a raya. It's not a refutation, because Dilma Aydid Toneration Mesasik, maybe only because the Reisha said Mesasik, because that was the focal point, that if a guy himself is blowing it and he's not having in mind, which we even said that could even be including Tekei L'Shir, that you're not going to be Yaitzid, because it has to be not distracted, they have to be engaged in what you're doing. So Tana Seva not Mesasik, so the Seva also is a Mesasik, but really, like Rashi says, maybe if you hear from someone who's blowing for himself, where he's not having in mind to might see anyone else's Chiyuv, then maybe he would not be Yaitzid. Why are we saying Mesasik? Mesasik sounds like he's not even trying to blow a tkiya. That's lav dafka. That was just because we wanted to say Hashemeh v'hamashmiya. But really, could be, it's even if he is trying to blow a shofar. And a mach tkiyas. But he's not having you in mind that you would not be yaitse, which was like Reb Zeir said to Shah hit his attendant, says, man's in, have me in mind, because or else I'm not going to be yaitse. Now we continue to look at the next Mishnah, which this is really one of the center stages of the mitzvah of Tekiyah Shofar, as we know it, regarding what actually is the order of Tekiyahs as we do them today. So the Mishnah says like this, say the Tekiyahs. The order of the Tekiyahs is Shalish. There is primarily 3, meaning 3 sets. One for Malchus, one for Zachrenis, one for Shayfaris. Shalish, of 3 each, meaning each one has Tekiyah, Shiur, and Tekiyah. That is the basic halacha of Tekiyah Shofar of 9 Tekiyahs. Malchus, Zachrenis, Shayfaris, 3, 3, and 3. That 3 is Tekiyah, true Tekiyah, Tekiyah, true Tekiyah, Tekiyah, true. That's 9 blasts. And then we find that terminology other places. If you have Shama Tasha Tekiyahs, but Tesha Shoyz by Yomi Yaitza, Me'ikar Adin, there's only 9 Tekiyahs of Shofar. Now, we'll see what does bring up from Taisis and things that relate to Lamaisa. But first, the Mishnah continues and says, well, this we also know is a very important thing. How long are the Tekiyahs? So, Shir Tekiyah, the measurement of a Tekiyah is Kisholish Truas. The measurement of time, which are 3 Truas, that's how long the Tekiyah has to be. And we'll explain that actually in the Gemara. It's not as simple as it sounds. Shir Trua. What's the share of a Trua blast? Which we don't even know really what Trua even means yet, as we'll see in the Gemara too. So you got to hold on a little bit. Is Kasholish Yabavis. Is like 3 small sounds. That's how long the Trua is. Now, we're going to quote now a halacha. We said it in the past already 2 times already, this halacha. It was from our Mishnah. Talk about Yishayim. Let's say someone blew the first Tekiyah, let's say in Malchus, before the Trua. He blew regular. Umashach Mishniya, now, the Tekiyah after the Trua, he went and he extended it Kishtayim, like the size of how long the two Tekiyahs would take. And he wants to do it to fulfill 2, because really he has to do a Tekiyah for after Malchus, and has to do another tekiah from before Zechronis. So he's like, kill two birds with one stone. Let me just do a long tekiah, and I'll do both. Says the Mishnah, Im biyod al achas. No, it's only considered as one tekiah, because, as we said this on Daf Yomi and Aleph, to cut a tekiah into two, then we don't do. So although it was the shiur of two tekiyahs, we're going to consider it as one tekiah. Now, continues the Mishnah. Misha Beirach, if someone daven musaf, and he already said the 9 brachas of Shemoneh Esrei, and the reason why we're saying it like this, and today's discussed this also, is that Me'ikar Din is this Malchus Zechron Shofar. The reason why we're saying like that is because that, and today's even asks, why do we even have our tekiyahs the Meyushav before musaf? What's the point of that? It's supposed to be ala brachas, and you see this from these halachas. That's why B'Malchus Zechron Shofar is whether b'lachash, whether the shlich tzibur, but the point is during the Shemoneh Esrei that's when it was nesakin to have those tekiyahs by Malchus 3, the Chrenis 3, and Shofar 3. So says the Mishnah, but let's say someone already davened Shemoneh Esrei and only but only then does he get a shofar. He didn't have a shofar during Musaf. Only came 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So tekiyah Maria, but tekiyah shalosh pam. So what you do is you blow a tekiyah, true tekiyah for Malchus, and then for Zechrenis, and then for Shofar. In other words, you make the 9 tekiyahs ala seder, even though you didn't do it by Shemoneh Esrei. The final part of the Mishnah is seemingly unrelated to the primary theme of our Mishnah. Just like the shliach tzibur, the chazan, the agent of the tzibur, he's obligated to daven. So to every single individual has to daven Shemoneh Esrei too. Where Lilam he disagrees, says no. Shliach tzibur meitzis rabbi dechavasan. The shots, he with his tefillah is mitzi the rabbin their chayva. Every person doesn't have to daven his own Shemoneh Esrei, and we'll see in the Gemara. So then, why does each one hold that there's the chazor sashat or tefillah b'lachash should be yitzu with the shliach tzibur? But first, the Gemara clarifies something important. You told me that the shiur tekiah, how long does the tekiah have to be? The Ruv is there with his watch, with his finger. Does a guy be long? So the Mishnah said kishalosh shuros, the size of 3 shuros. Says the Gemara, I batan with the Bryce that shiur tekiah is kishur. The shiur tekiah is like 1 shur. Where you tell me in the Mishnah it's like the size of 3 shuros. So Mabai actually says it's not a machlekes. Tani didan kachash of tekiah the kulibavi. The Tana of our Mishnah, when he was saying the shiur of tekiah, he didn't mean of 1 tekiah. He meant the shiur of all the 3 tekiyahs that you have to blow. The truest to kulibavi, and the truest of all of them. So, as Rashi explains, it doesn't really mean all the tekiyahs. It means the 3 tekiyahs are like the measurement of 3 truas. So, meaning each tekiyah in each set is like the trua of. In other words, it's like there's 3 truas. The 3 tekiyahs, which is tekiyah before, tekiyah after, but the tekiyahs are like the truas. It's just mentioning them all. So it says it's like the 3 truas. Tani bara, the Tana of the Brisa, kachash al chad bava was only considering 1 set, the sulai, and nothing more. So, as Rashi explains, really the shiur tekiah is like the shiur of a trua. So it's a little misleading. The words of the Mishnah that tell me the shiur tekiah is kishalosh truas, because the Rabbi answers it's not true. Everyone agrees that the shiur tekiah is like 1 trua. In the Mishnah that we said it's like 3 truas, we meant to say those 3 tekiyahs are like those 3 truas. Now there's tekiyahs before, tekiyahs after, but the tekiyahs are like the truas. Essentially, a tekiyah is the size of a trua. Okay, so we know the shiur how long the tekiyah blast has to be is going to be the shiur of a trua. Now the reason why that's so important, because that goes into the next part of the Gemara, which that's what Taisus has arichas, which we know is always a shmuz in halacha lamaisa about exactly how long do the tekiyahs have to be. We're going to see it depends which set is it. Is it the shvarim terua set? Is it the shvarim set? Is it trua set? Because you just told me the shiur tekiah is like that of a trua. Now tell me, what is a trua? We don't know what a trua is, so we don't know exactly how long the tekiah has to be. That's actually the next part of the Gemara. You told me in the Mishnah that shiur trua, the measurement of a trua is kagimel yabavas. How long does a trua have to be? It's like 3 blasts. That's what we call truas. We call that truas, meaning us, and that's what a trua, the pasuk mentions trua. What we mention is not necessarily what the pasuk mentions. I know this may sound confusing because we don't know what a trua is. A trua shvarim? Is it a trua? But the Mishnah says a shiur of a trua is like 3 blasts. It says the Gemara, I Vatanya, we learned the Brisa that true is Kishalish Shvarim, that a true is the size of 3 shvar. Now, a shever is longer than a yabava. A yabava is what we call a true. That one kia, one small kol is a yabava. A shever is do. So that's longer than the yabava. So that seems to be a difficulty. Is a trua the size of 3 yabavas, or is it the size of 3 shvarim? Which essentially is the question about what is a trua. So Mabaye says, you're right, this most definitely, they do disagree. In other words, even though I explained that the first part of the Brisa is not necessarily disagreeing with the Allah of Mishnah, I was able to be miyashiv and tell you that really they're saying the same thing. So the time the Mishnah is talking about all the truas, and in the Brisa talking about one trua that's 1-to-1 or 3-to-3, it's the same thing. Here he says in the Sefer they most definitely have to be disagreeing because there's no answer you could give. And this is what they're disagreeing about. Because the Pasuk says in the Midbar, it says, Yom Trua Yilachem. Okay, so this is the source of the Torah that you have to blow a trua on Rosh Hashanah. Now, Metargaminan, what's the Aramaic translation of this? Yom Yabava Yehilachem. It should be a day of Yabava. Now, what does Yabava mean? Uksiv Be'imid the sister, it talks about the mother of Sisra, the general, the evil general that was killed by Yael, Eshes Chever HaKeni. It also says, this terminology, a pasuk in Shaftim. She was waiting for her son. This mama of this wicked Rasha was waiting for him to come home. She was looking out the window. The tiyabav aim sifra, a sister, and the mother's sister was being miyabav. She was crying. She knew her son was killed in war and wasn't coming home. So what does it mean tiyabav? Because if you know what tiyabav is, you'll know what trua is, because that's the Aramaic of trua. Now there's a machlekes. What does tiyabav mean? Mar savar. The one who holds Shvarim holds, what was the mother's sister doing? Kinuchi ganach. The Rashi says, like a person that moans from his heart, like a sick person who they have lengthy moans. And that's also the Shaila, what is a Shvarim? Is it tuut, like is it? So if you think about what's a moan, like what exactly is that sound? But that's what that Tana held, that a trua is what we call a Shvarim. And we said that that's 3 abovas. So when we blow trua, again, if it means shvadim, because we want to do the trua, that's going to be 3 of them. 3 of those. That's going to do. Amarsa, but the other opinion held that no, you lose the yellow. What she was doing was, when her son wasn't coming home, she was like a person who cries and moans short little sounds, very close one to the other, sobbing. That is the sound of the trua. That's the machlekes. And again, so Taisus has a whole arichas. He says that you have to be careful. He says by shvarim that you shouldn't make each one by itself the size of 3 abovas, of 3 kailes, because if that would be the case, then it actually becomes a tekiah and it's not a shvarim anymore. He says because we said that the shiur of a tekiah, this is the cheshbon that goes into all the shmuzin about how long the tekiahs be, because the shiur of a tekiah is, we said in the Mishnah, is like a trua. The shiur of a trua is like 3 abovas. So if you're blowing your shavarim too long, you just made it into a tekiah. It's not a shvarim anymore. So that's why in halacha, that's what Taisus points out, you have to be careful not to do it too long. But now Taisus then explains, he says, a person has to, however, be mayrich by his tekiah over what's called kashrak. Kashrak is the kuf is for the tekiah because it would get confused with trua. So you don't use the taf because you can't use the taf because then everything ta. So when you do, which we do all 3 types, because as we'll see in the next Daf, we don't know exactly which mandam we pass like, that it's shvarim or trua. So he says, when you're blowing the tekiah shvarim trua tekiah, it's got to be longer than the tekiah shvarim tekiah one. Maybe it sounds confusing, but this is what that's why you have the rub up there. Why does he have to be up there? He needs to cook it? No, he has to figure these things out. And the tekiah shvarim trua one, tekiah shvarim tekiah one has to be longer, those tekiyahs, than the tekiah trum tekiah one. Why? Because again, the same cheshbon. The shiur of a tekiah is like that of a trua. Now, when we do tekiah shvarim trua tekiah, why are we doing it? Because we're not sure if it's genuche ganach and if it's yiluli yal. Now, it might be both of them. So it comes out that the tkiyas of kashrut has to be as long as a trua. Now, but the trua then might be 3 shvarim and 3 abavas. The trua is a longer trua if you hold it to shvam trua, meaning genuchi and yolo. So the tkiyah is going to be longer because it has to be that shiur. And he says by tkiyas of tkiyah shvarim tkiyah, it has to be the shiur of 3 shvarim. Because that's why we're doing it, because of genuchi ganach. That's longer than tkiyah trua tkiyah because that's yolo. That's the 3. We do longer, but it's 3 maker adin. So Taisa says that you have to make the tkiyas longer by tkiyah shvarim trua, then tkiyah shvarim, then of tkiyah trua. Each one of those accordingly, that's less and less and less.
The length of 3 truas, or the length that he's actually going to.
No, a trua is.
I understand. So the tkiyah has to be the length of 3 shvarim with 3 truas, or 3 shvarim, and the amount of truas that he's supposed to do. Like we do, like 9 or whatever.
Right. No, so it's that shiur.
Minimum.
Right. Now, actually, Taisa says if you want to be marach all the tkiyas, like the tkiyas of kashrut, that you don't have to be concerned about because you can make it as long as you want to, because that's what he says. He brings right from our Mishnah. It says the mashach b'shniya kishtayim em yodel achas. It's not a problem to go longer and do it that longer, but just again you can't do it shorter. He says so. Therefore, you don't have to be concerned. Let's say we do 4 or 5 shvarim, because the shvarim is taking the place of the trua, and there's like a long trua, like he says, like we're married by Yavavis. He says then he gets into shmuz exactly from the Riva and the Rivam that Yabava is just 3 koiches of kosher. So in other words, if it says actually this is where halacha like we do, if a shvarim is we're saying Yabava. What is Yabava? Yabava itself. We're saying that a true is 3 Yabavas. But what is the Yabava? When we were saying with Rashi, a Yabava is a kol shahu. So, okay, whichever one it is a genuchi or yal. So you'll do 3. No, they explained that Yabava itself is 3 koiches. So it comes out that a trua has to be 9 koiches. That's what we do. It has to be 9. Why? Because a trua is 3 yabavas, and they hold a yabava is 3 koiches. So it's 3 times 3, and according to them, so a tkiyah has to be that much longer because now the truas are longer. So the tkiyah, which is like that of a trua, has to be that much longer. So okay, there's a lot of interesting shmuz that Taisa goes through, but these are all the halachas that come up. So let's continue where the Gemara continues for the source of the halacha of our Mishnah, where Tanamav in the Brisa, Menaycha b'shayfer. How do you even know that you're supposed to blow with a shayfer on Rosh Hashanah? If you look at the Psukim, you're not going to find actually this halacha of blowing a shayfer on Rosh Hashanah. So Talmud the Pasuk teaches in the Yikra, it says Vavarta shayfer trua, that you should pass through a shayfer of a trua. And it'll be able. I would only know, as we know on Yom Kippur, you blow the shayfer. Rosh Hashanah Minayin. How do you know on Rosh Hashanah that you blow with the shayfer? It says over there in the pasuk, it says B'chodesh Hashvi. It says Rosh Hashanah is in the 7th month. Meaning it says over there actually by Yom Kippur. It says that pasuk is in Vayikra. The pasuk says B'vat shayfer trua b'chodesh Hashvi b'asal chodesh b'Yom Kippur tabir shayfer b'chal artzachem. Now, it's not teaching anything when it says in the 7th month. So, in other words, many times in the Torah it told us Yom Kippurim is in the 7th month on the 10th of the day. So it's talking about Yom Kippurim. So I noticed B'chodesh Hashvi, why are you saying that you blow the shofar on Yovel of B'chodesh Hashvi? Oh, I'll tell you why. You called Shruish B'chodesh Hashvi, Zek says, coming to tell you that all the blasts of the 7th month should be like each other. Comparing Rosh Hashanah, which is also in the 7th month on the 1st of Tishrei, to the 10th of Tishrei. Okay, so that's how I know that you blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Now, how do you know, which you said in the halacha of the Mishnah, that we blow a tkiyah, trua, tkiyah? It says the word trua. That's what it says over there by Yom Kippur and by Yovel. And so I know you got to blow a trua. How do you know that you blow a straight blast, which is called tkiyah beforehand? Because the pasuk says "Vavarta sheifa trua," which as Rashi explains, the word havara sounds like it just passes straight through. It's one sound, which is what's a pshuta. What we call tkiya is pshuta. It's a straight sound. That's what the word vavarta sounds like. So it's saying vavarta sheifa trua. So havara is talking about. Now, how do we know? Meaning it says the word havarta before trua. How do you know that you blow a tkiya after the trua? And this is the source for all what we do. So it's interesting that these are the psukim that we learn it out from. It doesn't say in the Torah to blow a tkiya, the shvar, and trua. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say any of this. You have to get to the sources. It says by yovel, trua, and b'chodesh shvi. We learn out Rosh Hashanah. It's the same thing. How do you know that it's a tkiya? True tkiya, because true it says in the Torah, but tkiya before because it says vavarta. And how do you know that you blow tkiya afterwards? Because it says by Yom Kippurim it says tavir shayfer. So he says that havara first, and it says havara at the end, and it says true in between. So that's how you know that you do a tkiya, true tkiya. And again, where do we get the shvarim and true? That's from the Gemara explaining that the translation of trua is yabava, and the question is, what does yabava mean? And that's machlekes, is it shvarim or is it trua? So I'm interested to recall this information. Now, but again, I would only know that you do a tkiya, true tkiya by yevel, because that's where those psukim are, vavarta. But Rosh Hashanah, how do you know Rosh Hashanah you also do that? It says in the 7th month there is a continued type of lamdal medal. Again, not really learning anything when it says because I know Yom Kippurim is in the 7th month. So she called true as like I said, that all the blasts that you do with a shayfer on this month should be the same. So all the halachas that we have on Yom Kippur are going to be the same thing on Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, that's how we know in Tisat. It doesn't say anywhere you can blow the shayfer on Rosh Hashanah. It says zichron and true, yeah, but it doesn't tell us. It tells us because we learn it out from Yom Kippur Mabiyevil. Now, it says the Gemara, Minayin l'shalish shalish shalish. But how do you know that you're telling me that there's a tkiya beforehand, a tkiya afterwards, and true in the middle? How do you do that 3 times? One for Malchias, one for Zachrenis, and one for Shefars. That how do you know? You told me it has to be 9 blasts. What do you see? It should only have to be 3 blasts. It says Gemara Tamalema because it says the word trua 3 times. Now, each trua needs to have a tkiya before and a tkiya afterwards. That's how I know there's going to be 9 blasts, a set of 3 sets of 3. Malchus, Zachrenis, Shefars. How do I know that? Because it says one pasuk vavarta sheva trua. It says once over there trua. There's another pasuk Shabbos and Zichron trua. It says again trua. And then there's a third pasuk Yom Trua Yilchem, a day of trua should be for you. Now the problem is, as the Gemara explains right now, these 3 psukim are not all in one context. These 3 truas, they weren't all said in the same context. 2 of these psukim are actually said regarding Rosh Hashanah, and one of them is regarding the pasuk by Yovel. So how do you know to apply the ones that are said Rosh Hashanah to Yovel, and to apply the ones by Yovel Rosh Hashanah to say that each one needs to have 3 truas, and to have the tkiyas before and after to make it a total of 9? Maybe Yovel should have only tkiya, true tkiya, and maybe Rosh Hashanah should have 2 sets, because we said twice true by Rosh Hashanah and once by Yovel. How do you know that each one is going to have 3 or 3? Again, Tamalema, so that's what you learn out from the pasuk when it says Shvi, Shvi, L'gzeira Shava. It says this word Shvi by Rosh Hashanah says B'chodesh Shvi. It says by Yovel, it says Vavarta Sheva True B'chodesh Shvi. Oh, from that Gzeira Shava, from the word Shvi, we learn out that Haketza, so how so? Shalish Ein Tesha. You can have 3, that's 9, meaning you can have 3 truas, and if you have a tki before and after, that's going to have another 6. So it's 3 truas, because it's 3 times, and we learn that Gzeira Shava, Rosh Hashanah ben Yovel, Yovel Rosh Hashanah, that whatever says over there says by there, whatever says over there says over here. So that's going to be 9. And as we said in the Mishnah, should tkiya ketrua, how long should the tkiya be? It should be as long as a trua, which that's very enigmatic because we don't know how long a trua is or what a trua even is, but a shiur has to be like a trua. And should trua is kashal shvarim. That's what this town is saying. That the shiur of a trua has to be like 3 broken cells. Now, says the Gemara, wait a second. Hi Tana, it seems just to be a difficult how to read this brisa. In the beginning, he brings it from a hekesh to learn out Yovel from Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah from Yovel. Because he said, how do you know that you have a shayfer and that you have a tkiya before and tkiya after it? You told me you learned the Rosh Hashanah from Yovel with a hekesh. Because we said, the word b'chodesh is not teaching anything. What's chodesh teaching? We said, lahakesh called true shal chodesh shvi shiyah shava. That's called a hekesh, not a gzeira shava. It's that the word b'chodesh shvi is extra. So learning out from there, chodesh shvi is comparing the whole month of the 7th month. But now the same brisa, the same Tana, a few lines later, now when he wants to tell you that the truest that it says by Yovel and the truest that it says by Rosh Hashanah, how do I know that the number 3 and it's not 2 and 1? Because he says, it's Xer Shabbat. So like Rashi explains the Gemara's question, what do you mean, why didn't you learn that also from the Hekesh? And moreover, because if you would think it would be like it's written, that 2 sets should be Rosh Hashanah and 1 by Yovel, then the truest of the Chodesh Shvi are not going to be the same. You told me Chodesh Shvi tells me that all the blast of the 7th month has to be the same, but it's not going to be the same. So the Hekesh itself should tell you that. Why do I need Xer Shava? Why do I need to tell you, Shtayt Shvi over there, says Shvi over here, Shtayt Dod, what it says over here says over there. Why do I need? You told me already a Hekesh. Forget about the fact that it says Shvi by Rosh Hashanah. It says by Yovel, B'chodesh Shvi, which is unnecessary, they know Yom Kippur B'chodesh Shvi. So that tells you that all the blasts of the 7th month have to be the same. So that should be enough of a limit. Why do I need to learn that from Xer Shabbat? Says the Gemara, you're right. This is what the Tana is saying. Ilav Xer Shabbat, had we not had a tradition which you cannot make up a Xer Shabbat. Xer Shabbat is a Halach Moshe Sinai. If we didn't have a Xer Shabbat to learn out, have a Maisina Lebekesh, I would have learned it from a Hekesh and I've on my own. But you're right, Hashtadig Asik Xer Shabbat, Hekesh Leitzarf. Now that we learned it out from Xer Shabbat, right, we don't need a Hekesh. I don't need to learn B'chodesh Shvi Kol HaKish Shal HaChodesh Shabbat, that it should be the same. I know it because Xer Shabbat, the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu from Har Sinai came down and told us, it says over here the same words, it says over here the same words, to compare these two contexts, and then that's how the Brisa ends up saying it. But you're right, I would have known it from a Hekesh, but the Torah told us through Xer Shabbat. Thank you, anytime.